You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News, the show that talks to newsmakers from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week, we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island just like you, and I want to know more about where my tax dollars are going, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us. Well, this week, I thought it might be a good idea to get inside the Nassau County District Attorney's office to give us all a behind-the-scenes view of the workings of the office and some of the high-profile cases they've been working on lately that you and I have read about in Newsday and on Newsday.com. So I'd like to welcome back to the show Nassau County District Attorney Ann T. Donnelly. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bill. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. Just looking at some of the things that the district attorney's office is responsible for, or programs they created, and this is a question I found myself asking many public servant: when do you sleep?
Rarely.
There's so many things, but. Well, let's just start out. Let's talk about what the role of the district attorney is. We've all seen Law and Order and shows like that. I'll bet you're not solving cases in under an hour.
No, it takes a little more than 45 minutes to get through solving a case in a trial.
Right.
But the district attorney is tasked with prosecuting all criminal arrests in the county. And as part of that job, we're also tasked with offering diversion and help to people who may get involved in the criminal justice system but need help to get over an addiction or something that may have gotten them involved. So we deal with every case from a murder case to a misdemeanor petty larceny. The only things we don't deal with are usually traffic violations unless they involve a bad accident or a death.
Okay. Now, are all the cases that you get referred to you, either by the police department or someone else, or?
So 85% of them are police arrests.
Okay.
The other 15% are investigations that my office is doing every day. I mean, we just took down a case that we did a year-long investigation on 2 days ago on catalytic converters. So there are certain bureaus who are tasked with more of those long-term cases. And then there's bureaus who take, as the arrest comes in, go. Right. We all just read the story about the catalytic converters. I was thinking, though, about, were they actually reselling those, or maybe they're doing a little of each, reselling the actual catalytic converter to somebody who could use it on another car, or were they stripping those things for the elements and the minerals? And yeah, they were not reselling them to anybody. They would crush the minerals out of them, and that's rhodium, palladium, and platinum.
Right. And
rhodium, believe it or not, is the most expensive mineral in the world right now. So they would crush them. The material comes out, the minerals, and then they send the minerals off to a refinery where they separate them, weigh them, and then send them the money back.
Wow. I mean, my first thought was when in the story in Newsday, it mentioned that they found $3.5 million in cash at somebody's house. And I'm thinking, if there was a little brain matter involved in that, you might have stopped at $1 million. And
Bill, I said the same thing to someone. I said, when is enough enough?
Right. Bingo.
Right. Okay. I have $3.5 million under my bed. I could stop.
Right. And this was a young person too. This was, I think, somebody about 20 years old.
Yeah. 22 and 24.
Wow. Boy. And I personally know people who were affected by that, and I think the bill was close to $5,000 to rectify that situation, to get a new converter.
Some of them can be very expensive to replace, depending on the car.
Yeah. Now I wonder, are the automotive companies going to react to that at all and do something about caging the catalytic converter under your car or welding it better? I don't know.
there has been talk about a couple of things that might help. One of them is stamping the catalytic converter with a unique number. Mm-hmm. Because one of the issues in a case like the one we did is proving that these catalytic converters were stolen, right? So unless you can say Bill's car has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on it, and my car has, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's difficult to say that's stolen from Bill's car. That's stolen from Ann's car.
Right.
But there are certain signs that they are stolen. That's something that we were doing in this investigation. And but there's been talk by the automotive companies of, working better with the police to make them easier to track.
Yeah, there's got
when they do get stolen, because until the price of these precious metals drops, it's too much of a market for it.
Yeah. Well, it's an attractive thing. But if they're crushing them and taking the precious metals, then really writing something on the outside isn't going to help. They used to tell us this with musical instruments. Every time you bought a new instrument, find a corner, find a place where you can put your X or put your mark on it, so that if later on in your life it turns up missing, you're the only one that knows that mark is in it.
I remember my daughter doing that. My daughter is a excellent saxophone player.
Oh, okay.
And as we bought her different saxophones, more and more expensive, I'd be like, "Can't you mark that or something?" She's like, "Yeah, don't worry, I do that."
Yeah, and the instruments, it's a shame, because I think even insurance-wise, you can insure instruments, but you can put them on a homeowner's rider, but they have to stay in your house. So if you're a working musician, you can't take it out of your house and keep it insured. It's kind of a catch-22. Yeah. Well, so the last 2 years, the pandemic has certainly changed the way we've done everything. And I'm sure it really put a speed bump into your office's operation, being able to continue without, there were so many things we had to take care of when the pandemic hit. How did that affect you guys?
Yeah, certainly the court system was affected, no different than everybody else was. I can tell you from personal experience, it was almost impossible to gather a grand jury, which is the body we have to present evidence to, in 2020, in April of 2020. It was almost impossible. We just didn't have them. Right. So everything kind of ground to a halt. There's no grand juries, there's no felony trials, and it's a terrible domino effect. I'm happy to say that our court operations are coming back at 100%. I have 4 trials happening right now in county court. It's the second week of December, right, and we have people on trial and we're trying cases. So we're attacking this backload that we have by trying the cases that need to be tried and disposing of the cases that can be disposed of. It's the only way to get through it. It's hundreds and hundreds of cases.
Wow. That's got to be scary for whoever takes them in and sees that pile accumulating on a desk someplace and just think, oh my,
I walked down to our county court administrative assistance area, and that's where they process all the felony cases.
Right.
And I walked in to say, one of the ladies was retiring and I wanted to congratulate her. And all I saw was piles of cases on desks. And I said, oh my goodness, that would overwhelm me every morning walking in. And she said, don't worry, we have it organized. We do this first and then this. But wow. If I had counted them, it would have been, I don't know, a couple of hundred cases right there.
And how, on average, how many are accumulating every day?
Well, that's the thing. It's not like they've stopped coming in.
Right. Yeah,
so, I don't know, probably somewhere around 200 cases a day come in.
Well, because we got, 2,400 police officers in Nassau County who are out there and bringing in these things that...
And 1.5 million people living here, so it's a big county.
That is.
We're the 4th largest county in New York State.
Yeah.
With Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens. Sorry, we're the 5th. And Nassau.
That's a lot of paper. A lot of paper. So now, this is a biggie because it's something that's been in the news, and in the last election cycle, it was a big issue and all that. The term cash bail, and it has been in the news lately. Now, have those new laws and the related information affected the way you handle cases?
Yes. I mean, they've had to, because even though we stood up and we said to the legislators, look, you're moving too quickly and too far, we're not going to be able to do this, they passed them anyway. So we all talk about bail, right? People being released from jail, but they also changed the parameters of discovery.
Yes.
So there's a shorter time period we have to get all of the information ready to turn over to the defense. Mm-hmm. And people don't realize it takes hundreds of man hours. You know, we get now police-worn body cameras, and they can take hours just to download.
Right.
And then they have to be reviewed, and then they get turned over. And nobody thought about those ramifications.
I don't think people are even slightly aware of when you say discovery and they have to turn us over information. I think that your average everyday citizen just says, oh, we have to say, okay, this guy shot that guy. That's the information. No. If 5 police cars responded to this, the GPS locations of those police cars have to be so somebody has to do all of this. And then somebody else has to compile all of that to make it make sense. Otherwise, it's just a pile of paper. It's mind-boggling.
And the ADA has to review all that before it gets turned over.
Yeah. I can't even begin to imagine how many people would be involved in just putting together one, folder for one case. Yeah. I mean, so now I'm sorry, it was 15 days. I think that they lowered discovery to at one point. Is it still there?
No, they changed it to 30.
Okay.
That's still not enough time.
Right.
As I said to you, there's 200 cases a day coming in, and let's say 200 a day backlogged.
Right.
You know, we're not getting through 400 cases in 30 days with the amount of information we have to gather.
No, right.
So, and I personally experienced the bail changes. In 2020, I was doing a very active residential burglary case. An international group from Chile had come in to commit burglaries. And I stood in court and told the judge, if you let them out without bail, they're going to flee the country. Mm. And the judge said, my hands are tied, and released them. And they laughed at me on the way out of the courtroom.
Right.
I've been a prosecutor for 33 years. Never had anybody laugh at me as they walked out.
Yeah. I mean,
they fled to Chile.
Yeah. I remember when the law first came out, and that was my first reaction is, well, wait a minute. We have judges for a reason. You guys shouldn't be writing a law that circumvents the judges that we voted for. People we put in the place to say, no, this guy should probably stay here and that guy shouldn't. The good thing is that it is still being chipped at and changed, and because it did come into effect, I thought, for a good reason. I mean, there were people sitting in jail that, especially that one story about the kid with the backpack. He was accused of stealing it, and so I mean that does tug at your heartstrings, and
of course nobody advocates for someone to be sitting in jail on a petty larceny for a year.
Right.
And I'm not against reforming some of the bail and criminal reform, but you have to do it with the people who do it every day in mind. Mm-hmm. Not people who sit up in Albany and have never walked in a courtroom before and say, we think this is a good idea.
Yeah, right. It's analogous to me to electric cars. I think they'll be a great idea when the infrastructure is in place to take care of them. But right now, we're doing this backwards, and
Absolutely.
The same thing with that. They pressed a button and put a law into effect. And I mean, I would have thought that lawmakers would have seen this coming. It wasn't magic. You changed the whole thing here. What did you think it was going to do? I've talked to many a politician about unintended consequences, just trying to get them to think maybe a little more broadly when they get that brush out and they paint a new law. And disavow, a whole crew of people. Oh, gee, we forgot about them. Well, it's,
right. Listen to everybody.
Right.
Right. The district attorneys were there saying, listen to us. And we kind of got the cold shoulder.
And you'll get the best answers if you listen to everybody and filter it down. I have to take a second there. You're listening to this week's Long Island News on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and my guest today is Nassau County District Attorney Ann T. Donnelly. Well, they're still changing the bail law, I guess. So there are still arguments going on. So there's conversation about it still. I mean, some of the more vehement conversation is get rid of it, and others are, there's the two ends of the spectrum. But the cooler heads that are prevailing, do you think they'll eventually whittle it down into something that makes sense to all of us?
I certainly hope so, because I could, a one sentence answer would be, if you give the judges back judicial discretion on bail, it would make all the difference. I'm not asking for mandatory bail on every case. I'm just asking for the opportunity to make an argument to the judge about why this particular person in this case should be held on bail. Right.
And that does not exist now?
Does not.
Really? So they're not even entertaining. Let's hear from the district attorney what they have to say. They're not even asking that. Really?
No.
That's disconcerting. So you guys, as far as county departments, have your own little tug of war with things that you need to get done and things you need from them, and they have things they need from you. And then you have 200 cases a day backing up. And it's like, again, how do you sleep at night? Just counting, you don't count sheep, you just count the cases as the files go over the fence. My goodness. Well, now I've also heard about your creation of the firearm suppression unit and efforts to combat illegal ghost guns in our communities. I know a little bit about ghost guns, but maybe you can explain to the listening audience, what are ghost guns?
Yes. So what happened was, from January 1st to November 30th of this year, 2022, we seized at least 335 firearms. That's 100 more than the same time period in 2021. And I said, wait a minute, something's wrong here, So that's when I created the Firearm Suppression and Intelligence Unit. And what they found in the beginning was many of these guns, not all of them, but many, were what's called a ghost gun. So a ghost gun is something you can either buy a kit on the internet and you put it together yourself, or if you have a 3D printer, there's a way to print the parts and then put them together yourself. Right. And people say, well, it must be pretty tough to put them together. And I'm not encouraging anyone to do this, but it's actually very easy to find out how to do it.
Right.
Anybody who has a computer and can go on YouTube can find out how to put it together.
Well,
and the problem with a ghost gun is there's no way to trace it. It does not have a serial number on it. So if it's used for a crime and dropped somewhere, there's no way for us to say, well, that gun belonged to John Smith, because we know that serial number went back at some point to John Smith.
Right. So you can't tell where it's been Also, and this was an old kind of James Bond thing that came out 20 years ago, but we never thought it would be real. You could print a ghost gun with a 3D printer in plastic. So it never shows up on a scan or walking through metal detectors or any of those things. That's scary.
And it's fireable.
Yeah. Right. And some of them, I understand, if they're made so small, they may only fire one bullet.
Correct. You can make them that small.
Right.
Or you can make them.
Yeah. I haven't heard of any automatic weapons being 3D printed yet, but
I don't think we've had any automatic weapons yet. A lot of handguns are 3D printed.
Yeah. Okay, and our other newsworthy thing that we've had in the few recent weeks, we've heard about the cyber attacks that have been in the news lately, more so in Suffolk County. But we know you also created the new Pharmaceutical Diversion and Cyber Crimes Unit with an emphasis on cyber crimes and cybersecurity. So what can the DA's office do to help prevent this kind of thing?
Well, I oversaw the office's cyber crimes unit for more than a decade before I was elected district attorney.
Okay.
So I know a little bit about the importance of it.
Right.
And we take a twofold approach to it. I just held my first annual cyber crimes conference. And we brought together and invited administrators from schools and administrators from towns and villages, and gave them a free class. It was a morning, 9 to 12, where we talked about small steps they can take to make sure they're keeping their infrastructure safe, right? Make sure your software is updated. Make sure you have firewalls in place. Steps that mostly it was IT people who were sent.
Right.
Steps that they can take to help make them safer. That's number one. Then we gave them tips about what to do if they do get attacked. I mean, what we do know about Suffolk is they had some warning.
Oh, yeah.
And those warnings seem to be ignored.
Uh-oh.
So you need to train your employees that when something comes up that, that's not right, you make that phone call to IT, because they might be able to cut it off at a small part as opposed to a big part. And then the cyber crime side of it, we work with dozens of law enforcement agencies and constantly share information with them. So in processing cases alone, we deal with people's bank accounts and their social security numbers. And so we have to protect all that. And then there are crimes being committed on the internet. Possession of sexual images of children is a big internet crime. Right. And so we have experts, ADAs and investigators who know how to track down those criminals who may be using the computer to commit a crime. And then lastly, we have, not lastly, but we also have a program that I instituted many years ago, 12 years ago, called Stop, Then Send. And we go to schools and we teach children the importance of being safe when using your internet on the phone, on the computer, so the idea behind it is stop and think before you send something.
Yeah.
And when I was doing it, we used to do it for high school. Then we went to middle school and high school. And now we have a program that was developed for as young as a kindergartner. Yeah. Because they have, smartphones.
You know what? As soon as you said that, that doesn't surprise me, and I congratulate you for realizing that. Yeah, kids are being born today with they got the index finger, and all they got to do is press those buttons. I don't think that most of us are aware of just how much information we put out there. I know that I would say 80% of people, and I'm giving them a lot of credit, don't realize how much information is in a picture that you post.
Yes.
All they see is an image. They don't realize there's a lot of zeros and ones, and there's a bunch of other information behind that picture, such as the time you took it, where it was taken. I mean, if people are looking, trolling for victims on the internet, how many of us have given them the key to our whole thing because we don't know? That's
correct.
We
give them the key to our children's location. We give them the key to our homes, to our.
Yep, and the technology comes down the pike so fast that I don't think we get used to it. What the latest thing is, I've heard them telling people the fob that you get for your car, stop putting it on the table next to the front door when you come home at night, because it's broadcasting, and people have scanners that can look at those frequencies and then go and start your car. Who thought that? I think the craziest thing, and I see it every day, we see it on News 12 a lot, I do, the ring cameras. And a guy's in the driveway, and he goes and lifts up the door handle, and it opens. And I'm thinking, what year is this? In 1965, I lived on Long Island. No, we didn't lock our cars. You could almost just throw the keys under the seat. We didn't lock our front doors. We didn't do any of that. But today, we should all know better. You know?
I say that every day when I get the reports of stolen cars. 9 out of 10 of them is key fob was in the car. Key fob was in the car. I'm like, all they do is come in. They call it. They have a name for it. You know, they jiggle the handle.
Yeah.
If yours happens to open, they get in, they start it, and they take it.
Yep.
What is the big deal? Take it out of the car, put it in your pocket, put it in the house.
It's like this is so difficult. But I don't know. Does insurance make it easy? Like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. They'll get me a new one. And, you know, that kind of thing. I can't think. I guess some people are that way, but it's
never easy, the inconvenience of having your car stolen.
Yeah.
Because now suddenly you're without a car and you're, you know, but I just don't understand why people don't think that through.
Right. And it's such an easy thing. At least you could do that. I mean, if I left my keys in my car and had my car stolen, I would feel like a complete idiot. I really would. Just my own fault. Can't blame anybody. I almost can't even blame the crook. You know, I made it so easy for him. How could he not take my car? You know, anyway, that's one we both agree on. I every day I see them and I just think, you know, and it's a shame that it's one thing to learn from your own mistakes, but it's really a cool thing to learn from other people's mistakes. So folks, when you see those shows on, you know, News 12, when you see a guy walking up the drive and just somebody just left their keys in the car, they basically gave him the car. You know, so try not to do that. And you've had, just as quickie, well, we don't have a lot of time left. We need to definitely, got to get you to promise to come back because we have so many things we could talk about, but because there are a lot of programs that the DA's office has that I don't think people are readily aware of either. Well, it's a never ending battle. And, I'm thankful you're there on it because, it would blow me away. I know. But anyway, our guest today has been Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly, and we want to thank you again for talking to us and for always making yourself available to appear on the show. And always, like we say in show business, break a leg, but good luck is really what that means. And we hope to see you back soon, okay?
That would be great. Thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. A pleasure to talk to you, too. Okay. Well, the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to get on out of here. To remind you that I'm Bill McIntyre, and you can listen to us every Friday at 3 p.m. right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.